Today we're going to make and decorate a birthday cake. Now this cake is for my daughter. So we're going to make sure you can use a cake mix. It'd be a lot easier. Or if you want to follow a recipe, you can look one up online for the kind of cake that you want to make, and make sure you have all the ingredients first, and then you can make that. Okay, what we're going to do is, this is all mixed together. We're going to cut parchment for the bottom of the pans. And what I did was I laid out the parchment, and I don't know if you can see it, but I traced the pan with a pencil. And then I'm going to cut out the parchment, and I've very, very well oiled the inside of these cake pans because I'm doing a 2-layer cake. And I'm going to cut out these circles and place them inside. I preheat the oven to 350. And I cut out my parchment circles. Parchment is a very thin paper, and the reason why you put it in the bottom of the cake pans is to keep them from sticking. Sometimes you can make a cake and it can be very frustrating when you try to take the cake out of the pan when it's cooked. It sticks and the whole cake falls apart. But parchment actually keeps the cake from sticking to the pan. So this is just an opportunity for the cake to stay in one piece. Now, with the parchment in place, and we oiled it with vegetable oil, we're going to go ahead and pour the batter in the cake pans. The batter has been poured into the cake pans. Try to make it as even as possible, and you can see that it almost comes up halfway on each of the pans. This one might have just a little bit more, but that's okay, just as long as you get it close. Now I'm going to put them in the oven. Don't forget to set the timer because we don't want the cake to burn. "30 minutes. Okay, the timer has rung off. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to check to make sure the cake is done. And I stuck the fork in, or you could use a knife, and you see it comes out clean. It doesn't have any batter on it. So these cakes are finished. I'm going to take them out of the oven. And remember to turn the oven off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my wire rack so that they can cool, but they need to come out right away. So usually what I do is I take a knife and I cut all around the outside of the cake to make sure that there's no batter hanging on the side that would make it stick. So I go all around the outside, right on the edge of the metal. I don't want to cut into the cake. So you want to go right on the edge of the metal and make sure that the cake isn't sticking to the pan anywhere. All around the edge, and you can see it's upside down. I put a plate on top of the cake pan, and then I'm going to lift. Be careful, the cake pan is very hot. So I'm going to lift it off, and you can see the cake came off in one piece. But you can see the parchment that we put in the bottom and how well it did to keep the cake from sticking. And now we're just going to take the edge of the paper very carefully, and we're going to peel it off. You can see how hot this cake is. We're going to do the same thing to the other one. Now the second one's out. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to peel the parchment off. You can see the smoke rising from the cake. Now this cake has to be completely cool. It's got to almost be cold before you can put any icing on here. Because what happens when you put butter on a piece of hot toast, it melts. The icing, which is mostly butter, will do the same thing. It will melt and drip right off the cake. So these are going to be allowed to cool, and then we'll get started on the frosting.